Hey, I'm here with my good buddy Corey Barker to talk about his classes at the upcoming Photoshop Virtual Summit 4. Thanks for joining me to chat about your classes.
Happy to be here. Thank you once again for having me for the.
All right. So, one of the classes you're doing is a crash course on masking. So, tell us a little bit about who that's designed for and the kind of things you're going to be covering in that class.
Well, first off, it was a real challenge to try and get the basics of masking in under an hour. But what we're going to be targeting is if you've never used masking at all in Photoshop, this will tremendously help you. Even if you've used it for a while, you're going to get something out of it, because what I'm going to do is kind of go into how something that not a lot of people do is to how masks actually work in Photoshop, and then we're going to go from there and then see how those principles of channels translate into masking. So we're not just going to show you here's a layer mask and here's what it does. We're actually going to go into the pixel depth of it and say here's what's really going on under the hood. Reason I wanted to take that approach is that it helps you in other aspects of masking once you have that strong foundation. So it's a lot of info up front, especially when we get started. So
Sure. And that's one of the things I've talked with a couple of instructors about, that one of the things that's nice about the length of these classes being they're not like short little tutorials. There's enough time where you can do that kind of look a little bit more in detail to kind of foundational stuff, I guess you'd say, that helps with understanding a lot of different functions that you go through.
And you're going to leave the session with, knowing what to do right away. You're going to be able to get right into it and be able to get right started. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of how I use masking as far as compositing goes, and which I will also provide. I have a brush set, compositing brush set that I'm going to supply for our users, our
Awesome.
VIP users get their bonus. I'm going to be providing some additional bonuses for that.
Awesome.
As far as the masking goes and some of the exercises that I do in there. So I'm really
great
with that. So,
well, that'll be a big help. And as I said, I think it's important to realize that even people who feel like they're relatively good at masking, there's always, when you see someone else do it, there's always tips you can pick up along the way, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's something, I mean, even techniques that I have used, even way back when, back in our earlier training days, I'm still find myself using those techniques even today, especially when it comes with channels and stuff like that, and they're still very relevant, still very useful. And I never dismiss that in any new training. Like, selection tools have come so far.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose that foundation. That's why I always include a channel aspect of selections and stuff like that in any kind of.
I think that's important, because as much as there's all this great new technology that, select object and select subject, but what happens if they don't quite get the result you want? You still need to have other techniques to fall back on.
Exactly. And enhance that. I mean, I've taken up, usually I'll do a tutorial where I'll say, here's select subject. And that's a good start. I never say it gives you 100%, it's a good start. And then you can take it from there. And if you, depending on the complexity of it, you're beating your head wondering, how can I fix this? Oh, there's a channel trick. There's just things that aren't obvious that you thought, oh, there was this thing he used with channels one time. It was a really easy solution. So I want to be able to have people to have that in the back of their mind whenever they hit that wall and they think, there it is.
Right. So, exactly. Nice. Yeah. Now, the other one you're doing is on the wonderful world of filters. So what's that all about?
Filters. My classic.
Filters.
It's like classic rock for me. It really is. I love filters. There's something I've been around in Photoshop for some time, and I was thinking about this not too long ago. It's like, when you thought about filters years ago, early days of Photoshop, it was only really known to like Photoshop users. But now in social media, I mean, every app on your phone has filters running of some kind. So filters are not strangers to people now. So maybe it's worth a revisit to these that have been in Photoshop for so long that people have ignored, and maybe thought, maybe it's time to revisit them and see what they can do. That maybe I never really played with them before. So, and that's one of the things I really want to show in this class is not just, hey, here's all these cool filters, but here's how to mix them. Here's how to look at them a little differently and approach them a little differently to get a result that you didn't quite think of before. Bart is another good example of this. I actually learned a lot about filters from him, and looking at them very differently, and the way he utilizes them in his illustrations, just taking them in a different direction is something you never really want to lose. I always did it, even when I wasn't necessarily looking for something creative. It's just fun. It's like getting a Lego set and just think about filters virtually and just playing with them and see what they get. So,
Well, one of the things I've always appreciated of your work is that I remember numerous occasions where you'd show me something and then you said what filter you use, and I was like, huh? Because my impression of what that filter was for would never give that result, but was because you looked at it differently and because you perhaps combined it with other filters or did some
mhm.
other step beyond that to get some result beyond perhaps the obvious.
I always had a theory that it wasn't an artist that named the filters. That it
Exactly.
was definitely an engineer that just looked at what he saw on screen and said, "Well, that looks like this or something like that." And then an artist gets a hold of it and says, "No, that looks like this, or it could be this, or it could be that." And that's the mindset you should have going into it. So
Right. Well, I think we've seen that a lot of things in Photoshop where the names are based on how the algorithm works, not what you would actually use it for.
yeah, oh yeah, you get some, yeah. And I'm get people, they'll tell me, it's just like, I have no idea what that is. I don't even click on it because I'm scared of it. It's just like you don't know until you go in there. Nobody
Right.
knew crack. I still don't know how to say it right. Is it cracular? Remember we always
Yeah,
joked about that.
exactly.
Yeah, there's just some in there that you just are just going to have to give it a try. Now, to
Hmm.
be told, there's filters in Photoshop I've never used to this day.
Right.
And I've used Photoshop for quite some time now, but there are some that just don't have a use. You're just like that is a really cool effect, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You're going to run into that.
Well, and I think one of the other interesting aspects of the kind of thing you're talking about with going down some path with filters is that even if the person watching never has to create that exact same look, they might see something else on the way and go, "Oh, I can use that for this
Mhm,
other project because now that I have an idea of what it's for or what it,
mhm.
it is capable of doing, then I can use it in my own way myself."
One thing I do, and it's actually do this, I think it's in the first lesson, is talk about using effects that people probably have used over and over again. It's something as simple as displace.
Hmm.
We've probably seen many tutorials on how to make generated displacement map and stuff like that. But I take it a step further, and kind of like I talk about channels in the masking session, is that um, how you can kind of understand how the filter works, then generate your maps based on that. So we're
Hmm.
actually kind of getting creative with how we create the displacement maps themselves. Sometimes it'll say, "Oh, duplicate the image and then save it as a map." We're going to understand how those maps work and then generate them that way, and it will help you control the effect a lot more. And I think it gives you an interesting result in the end. So it's another way of utilizing smart filters. So we're going to get into that too. So
Well, those sound like awesome courses. I'm sure everyone will get so much out of them, and I appreciate you taking the time, Corey, to tell us about your classes.
I appreciate it very much. I'm excited to be a part of the Photoshop Summit. I can't believe we're already at the fourth one, like we're
I
just saying.
know it's crazy, isn't it? Should be a
Unbelievable.
good one. Thanks again, Corey. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.